Before the war began, there was a man whose name would change the world forever. Adolf Hitler. Behind the public figure and the power, there was a human story full of dreams, failures, and tragedy. Adolf Hitler was born in 1889 in a small Austrian town called Braunau am Inn. In his early years were simple and quiet, far from the chaos that would later define his life. As a child, he grew up in a strict household. His father was harsh and demanding, while his mother was gentle and caring. These early experiences shaped his personality deeply. Hitler had a passion for art. He loved painting buildings, landscapes, and historical scenes. He dreamed of one day becoming a famous artist in Vienna. In his teenage years, he moved to Vienna to apply to the Academy of Fine Arts. But he was rejected not once, but twice. This rejection filled him with bitterness and self-doubt. For several years, he lived in poverty. He sold small paintings and postcards just to buy food. His dreams were slowly replaced by frustration and loneliness. Vienna, the city where he lived, was full of politics and social tension. He listened to many ideas about nationalism, power, and identity, which would later influence his beliefs in 1913. Hoping for a fresh start, Hitler moved to Munich, Germany. He left behind his Austrian life, searching for meaning and belonging in a new land. When the First World War broke out in 1914, he volunteered to fight for Germany. For the first time, he felt part of something greater than himself. He served as a messenger on the front lines. Life in the trenches was brutal, but it gave him purpose. He was wounded once, but survived the horrors of war. In 1918, Germany lost the war. The defeat broke the nation, and it broke Hitler too. He believed that Germany had been betrayed, and that anger stayed with him forever. After the war, Germany was in ruins. The economy collapsed, people were starving, and the country's pride was gone. It was in this chaos that Hitler began his political journey. He joined a small political group called the German Workers' Party. It was here that his talent for public speaking was first discovered. Crowds gathered to hear him speak. His words were fiery and emotional, filled with promises of rebuilding Germany and restoring national pride. As his influence grew, the small party turned into a massive political movement. People who had lost everything now believed he could bring change. In 1933, Hitler rose to power and became the Chancellor of Germany. The man who once lived in poverty now led one of the most powerful nations in Europe. He presented himself as the savior of Germany, the one who would rebuild the nation and give people hope again. Behind the speeches and parades, however, was a system built on fear and control. Propaganda shaped what people saw, read, and believed. The government controlled newspapers, radio, and education. Children were taught loyalty to the leader above all else. While Germany's economy improved, freedom began to disappear. People who spoke against the regime were punished or silenced. By the late 1930s, Hitler's ambitions had grown beyond Germany. He wanted to expand his power across Europe. In 1939, his army invaded Poland. This single act started the deadliest conflict in human history, World War II. For years, Europe was consumed by destruction. Cities burned, millions were displaced, and the world watched in fear. Hitler's forces spread rapidly. But by 1943, the tide of war began to turn. Allied nations fought back with strength and determination. Germany's cities were bombed night after night. The country that once seemed unstoppable was falling apart. By early 1945, Hitler had retreated to an underground bunker beneath Berlin. He refused to accept defeat, even as his empire crumbled. Outside, Berlin was burning. Allied soldiers surrounded the city, and the sound of gunfire filled the air. The war was coming to an end. In April 1945, Adolf Hitler's life ended inside that bunker. With his death, Germany surrendered soon after, and the war in Europe was finally over. The world was left in ruins. Millions had lost their lives, and entire cities were destroyed. The consequences of his rule would haunt generations. Today, historians remember Hitler not to glorify him, but to remind the world of what unchecked power and hatred can do. His story is a warning that peace and humanity must always come before pride and power.